Welcome to the Backfield Buzz Podcast, support of the High Podcast Network. Cody Wiles, Logan Glover, Andrew Foster here as always, keeping you up to date with all things NFL. I don't even know if I need to keep saying our names at this point. We're what? This is what, episode 16, Lovey?
I think it's episode 18 or 19. We're getting up there.
I just want to say I'm proud. I'm proud.
Consistency.
Consistency. That
Yep.
is the key, right? How are you guys doing, Frosty?
Yeah, I got off a 2.5 hour train ride, so the legs are a little stiff, but I'm living.
Hey, feel free to get up and start moving around if you need to while we're talking. No worries.
I
We
got I
might.
got a volleyball. I got a volleyball behind me, so I might start, playing a little pepper with myself, but we'll see.
Glover, how you doing?
Oh, feeling pretty good. We're all set. It's a busy weekend for the fellas this weekend. Yeah, we got graduation. Well, this video's getting uploaded. We'll be out fucking doing God knows what, graduating, and I guess that's all we'll be doing. That's not really that complicated, but yeah. So it's a busy
No,
weekend, but hey, we're still getting the content out. We're still there. We're still here.
yeah, no shenanigans. Just graduating. There would definitely be no other sort of gambling. What? Drinking? No.
Betting? Betting and watching Thursday Night Football? What are you talking about? It's not like this is what we're
Putting
gonna talk about
putting
today.
up putting money on poker? Definitely not. That will not be happening. Okay. But anyways, if you want to put some money on some games, we will be talking about that today. We will be doing our best bets. We got a betting guru amongst us and Logan Glover. Just don't listen to me and Frosty. We'll give you something,
Please,
but just don't.
for your own safety, just
Uh,
don't, man. Good God.
But we'll also be giving you some starts and sits for fantasy. Listen to me and Frosty.
yeah.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
listen to.
I listen to my receivers though. Juwan Jennings. I'm gonna hold that all year. That week three hit, that's my yearly like, hey, Juwan Jennings once had 46 points when I started him.
Well, let's look at the overall records because you are bringing up the rear at 6-12. And honestly, it should be worse because we went and revisited the tight end position. So, for our start sets for the wide receivers and running backs, it's 10 points is kind of the threshold for yes or no. We were doing that with tight ends, but if you guys have been listening to us throughout these, the tight end position is a mess. And if you just do fantasy football yourself, you know it's a mess. So we're gonna bump that down to 8. How we feel about that? We like it.
We're I think what we're gonna go for is top 12 because
Oh, right.
because the tight end position is kind of funky. So if your start tight end is a top 12 tight end, that therefore startable in most leagues, you get the points. Like last week, Gesicki hit for me and Brendan Strange hit for Frosty at 8.7 and 9.2 because they were top 12s.
And you went back and did that for all of them?
Yeah, the only other one that
Okay.
changed was David and Njoku week one pick.
Right. All right. Well, with all the changes, you were still 6-12. Should have been worse though. We'll let it go though. Me and
I need
Frosty tied it. Okay. All right. Well, we'll get to your fantasy in a second. All right. But well, I don't know what was about to come out of your mouth there,
I need
but
the free points. I need to know David and Njoku.
it's kind of annoying because you went 0-6 in week one, and that changed it to now
What do
you
you
got to win on
got?
that. So me and Frosty, well, I'm 10-8. Frosty's 10-7 because he put a dirty little injury into his sit, which I mean we can hasn't been a problem since, but I'm keeping my eye out on it. Anyways, let's get into this week. Let's start with the running backs. Who's been the best at running back? Frosty, do you like your running back? How you been?
No. To be actually, all of us we haven't been great at running backs.
Yeah,
Logan is 1 for 6 on
yeah.
running backs. I'm
But one
two
in
for five, two for
yeah,
five with an asterisk on on Kenneth Walker in week 2, and I believe you're 2 for 6.
yeah,
So we're
something like that.
not we're not nobody's hitting 50% on running backs right now. It's
Yeah,
it's not a good showing on the running back side.
yeah.
This is where it changes though. Who you starting?
The tide turns. I'm starting Zach Moss since he
Ooh.
against the Panthers this week. Chase Brown was a little bit banged up. I get the Panthers put up a lot of points. At some point, Cincinnati has to they have to have a lead and they're going to try and run the clock down. And I think Zach Moss is going to be the back that they lean on to do that. Um, I I think Zach Moss is pretty clearly the lead back in their backfield. Carolina's a bottom 5 run defense so far this year. I just think the recipe's there for Zach Moss to have a boom kind of game.
Yeah,
I will say I like how Chase Brown looked. I will
I
say, just as a, you're right. Zach Moss is the lead back. I mean, 65 snap percentage in week one, 80 in week two, 76 in week three. He's clearly been taking up the majority of the snaps. I just feel like Brown's a little bit more efficient, but I'm not sure if that's going to mean much.
I agree. Like I think Zach Moss has obviously been their guy. They've been going with him for the whole season, but I do like what Chase Brown is doing. His limited snaps, he tends to be able to break off a couple good 8 to 12 yard runs, which are really solid. But for me, I like the Zach Moss pick. That's solid. I'm going with Devin Singletary. Playing the Cowboys defense, which is ranked as the worst defense against running backs for fantasy. So, and Singletary just had a really good week against another poor run defense. I think he could be in line to get a touchdown. He could be in line to just get a lot of work in this game. Don't know if the Giants will be up enough, but he's also shown that he can work in the receiving game with 4 catches in week three and 4 catches in week one. So I just like the safety net with Devin Singletary. I feel like he's a pretty safe bet to hit 10 points.
Yeah, I think at this point, I think it's just matchup based. If your running back is starting against the Cowboys, the Colts, anybody like that, you're just starting them.
Yeah.
How are you not going to start Singletary when Rip? Am I muted? Oh no, I'm not. How are you not going to start Singletary right before we come on? You're like, if I could bet on Devin Singletary to score 6 touchdowns, I would. And you don't
So
even come with him as your start.
I started Singletary week two and he hit. I went back and looked at his game logs, and he hasn't been under 10 points yet. I don't think this year in all 3 weeks. So I wasn't sure if I'd be allowed to start him, so I didn't. I went a little different route and I took Zach Moss, but oh,
He's
I
he
digress.
he was under 10 week one, but barely. But I
So,
mean, I Zach
uh,
Moss Singletary are pretty close.
yeah, Singletary's RB 17, while Moss is RB 20. So, I mean, Glover's pushing it a little bit, but I mean, maybe we should have defined like, what like how close you could be to like a top 12 guy in each to as a start sit. But
Yeah.
I think Singletary and Moss are both fine options for you guys. I mean, I mean, you guys know I've been preaching about him since we did the NFC East preview about
Yeah.
just Singletary. I mean, just with Daniel Jones in general, you're going to want to run the ball a bit more. And Motor's been good. He's found the end zone the last 2 weeks. Like you said, Glover, pass game is something that's always been a strength of his. So that'll keep him on the field, and I like it. I'm going off the board a little bit. I'm going with a backup running back, which is kind of sketchy, but it's my guy, Braylon Allen. I don't know if this is how hot of a take this is. Probably is kind of. I've been kind of known for that, but I like it. Broncos allowing the 10th most rushing yards to RBs, and Allen is a flex start in my opinion. Like I think you're in trouble if he's one of your top two RBs, but as a flex option, I would start Braylon Allen because if it's a positive game script like it was last week for New York, Allen's going to have a lot of upside. But even if it's a negative game script for whatever reason they start losing to the Broncos, he has a floor because of how efficient he is and what he can do in the pass game. I mean, he's averaging over 5 yards per carry. And the 18 he's gone, he was at 18 carries this season, which I know is like concerning. And I know it's the backup running back. I know the guy ahead of him is a monster, but I mean, I don't know. He's just so efficient. What he can do in the pass game, and he found 2 touchdowns against Tennessee in week two. Even if he gets in the end zone, even if he doesn't get in the end zone like he did last week, he was right at our 10-point cutoff with 9.8. I think he can get in, and especially he's shown that he could get more of a workload. So I wouldn't even be surprised if the snap percentage went up from around 35% that it's been these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, the efficiency is definitely that's the biggest reason he's looked pretty good. And it's a weird situation. If you're like a Brees Hall owner, you're sitting there like Brandon Allen's good when you drafted Brees Hall. You knew Brandon Allen was a solid piece and a really good running back coming out, but like he's taking away certain like carries, like he's taking away snap share from Brees Hall, who's supposed to just be a pure workhorse, which he wasn't last year because of the ACL recovery and rehab. But this year he was supposed to be just a full workhorse, like 95% snap share kind of guy. And Brandon Allen's tipping into that, and it's a little risky if you're a Brees Hall owner.
Yeah. I think the floor is really, really low on Braylon Allen, but I think the ceiling's also really, really high on him going into this week.
I mean, they also do some dual RB stuff as well. So, I mean, yeah, I would argue the floor is a bit higher. That's why I would start him because I feel like he's just too efficient to where I guess that could change, right? And I guess in week one he didn't have the best of times, but weird snap percentage. Like he was only 18 snap percentage for him in week one, and he only had one attempt on the ground and one catch. So kind of throwing that out the window. If you just look at the last 2 weeks, which is where he's really gotten involved, I like it. I like it. It's a risky pick, but that's what we're doing here. I'm trying to win, so got to go off the board because when I just go right, when all of us try to just do the likely thing, it doesn't happen. So sits now. Glover.
I'm going to a guy who's been a bit of a repeat offender on this list in multiple facets. I was Andrew Stitt last week, I'm on Rashad White. I think that it's just a downhill
More
spiral
white.
for
Oh
Rashad.
God, if we keep talking about all these whites again and again with all the white combos.
It just it's just a terrible matchup for Rashad White. Playing Philly, who is a solid run defense, especially with the guys that got up the middle. Philly does not allow touchdowns to running backs. They did a really good job of shutting down all the running backs they faced. Josh Jacobs, Calvin Kamara was held pretty much in check last week. They are really good when it comes to that facet. I don't Bijan was solid against them, but didn't find the end zone. And a guy who's as inefficient as Rashad White, if he's not going to be able to find the end zone, which is where Philly excels, there's no way he can hit a 10-point mark. There's no way he can be a startable back, especially with Bucky Irving chopping on the at the bit to kind of steal those carries. Because Bucky Irving looks efficient, he looks good, fast, explosive. He looks like the better back. And he's been getting more and more involved in this offense, as Todd Bowles has said and repeated, like, Bucky's going to keep getting more work. I just don't think Rashad White's a great piece. And honestly, I'd just sell him off if you have him.
Oh, I know Frosty's pushing he's conducting the Bucky Irvin train.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I double dipped on Rashad White. He's my sit again this week.
Yeah.
This, I I will keep sitting Rashad White until Todd Bowles sits Rashad White. That's when I stop sitting him, is when he is sat on the bench and Bucky Irving has like a 70% snap share, because that's what it should be. Rashad White is one of the most inefficient running backs in football, and you have a rookie that's coming out putting up over 5 yards a carry for you. And the receiving difference isn't really that much of a difference between the two of them. Rashad White's an incredible receiving back. Bucky Irving's also a very, very good receiving back as well. So I think the Rashad White usage is just going to keep going down, and he will probably stay my sit until you guys tell me that I can't have him as my sit anymore.
At this point, Zamir and Rashad White are gonna have to give us like a check. I don't know.
The residuals for mentioning their names so often.
We're bringing them publicity here. A lot of
Yeah,
views
it's a
on
good
this. A lot of
publicity
views
show.
on this
All
channel.
all publicity is good
Yeah,
publicity.
fair enough.
Yeah, half the time one of us is dogging them, but my sit, uh, Josh Jacobs. Uh, just bro's allergic to the end zone, and especially against this Minnesota team that is allowing the fifth fewest rushing yards and the fifth fewest fantasy points to running backs. Kind of concerning. Emmanuel Wilson outperformed him last week, which like isn't the biggest deal because it was like late in the game and Green Bay kind of already had it wrapped up. But maybe it shows that Wilson can steal a couple carries and you don't have to just work Jacobs into the ground, which is clearly a priority for them since his snap percentage has been going down and he only barely played over 50% last game. Started off 73 in week one, down to 67 in week two, now all the way down to 52 in week three. I mean, no touchdowns yet this year. The fumble on the goal line in week two really hurt him. And honestly, it could be looking at him very differently because that was a monster game and he still somehow uh, only had 13 points with 151 yards on 32 attempts. Just couldn't get in the end zone. So we'll see with Jacobs. Could be proven wrong here, but I got a firsthand glimpse of this Minnesota defense last week. And honestly, I'm afraid for what could happen to the Green Bay offense.
As a Josh Jacobs fantasy owner, I can confirm the allergic to the end zone claim because it is so annoying. Like, he gets a touchdown in weeks 1 or 2, and he's a great start at 19 points, at 20 points, or it would be 21 points, 22 points because of the fumble on the goal line if he got in the end zone. Like, those are great RB1 numbers. Instead, you're getting borderline RB2 flex play numbers. It's really a shame because the work is there. I mean, 16 carries for 84 yards, 32 carries for 151 yards. He's looking efficient. He's running the ball well, but in fantasy, he's not getting touchdowns. So therefore, the production isn't there. And yeah, the Minnesota defense is great. I'm not overly worried about Emmanuel Wilson, however, because I do think a lot of that was just garbage time because the Packers were laying it on against the Titans. Like it was a blowout. So I think that kind of played into it. And Emmanuel Wilson broke off a couple of big runs. But yeah, Jacobs, it's unfortunate. He's such a good runner, but the end zone is just his kryptonite.
Yeah, I looked at not Rashad, I looked at Rashad White too. But I looked at having Jacobs as my sit, but I just he's got to get there at some point. That's the only thing. Like at some point he's got to manage to find a way into the end zone, right? Like he's a good running back. He just can't score.
I mean, he's RB30 at this point.
Well, don't worry. Like here's the thing is I'm gonna trade him in my league, and every time I trade a player, they go off. So I'll trade him, and then he'll score 3 touchdowns this week against Minnesota. That's how it's gonna go.
Well, there goes my whole pitch because yeah, you're right. Uh,
I've had
all
bad
right.
trading luck.
Okay, let's go to wide receivers now. Who's our wide receiver guy? I think I'm our wide receiver guy. I think I've only gotten one wrong this season. So,
Yeah, I
uh,
think yeah, both of us have got one wrong this season.
oh yeah, you are the wide receiver guy as well.
Yeah.
So you go ahead. Who you bringing to the table? I hopefully you're not like, oh, Zamir White can play wide receiver now or anything like that. But there should be no White talk.
So this is the last time I'm going to do this, but I'm double dipping again, and I'm starting Deontay Johnson for the second straight week. Um, Adam Thielen's on IR now. The Bengals defense does not look good at all. I think Deontay looks like just a target machine with a guy like Andy Dalton at quarterback who's just going to feed towards his number one receiver, and I think Johnson could be in for another 20 plus point fantasy game.
Yeah, I mean,
I,
yeah, I don't see why not. The Bengals defense is rough, and any Dalton revenge game, who knows?
I thought about Deontay Johnson, 100%. I thought about him, but decided to leave him off. I'm glad because didn't want to double up too often because I instead am starting Amari Cooper. Uh, last week went off. Uh, 7 catches for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns on 12 targets. Boys, he's averaging like 10 and a half targets per game. Like, I know a lot of them weren't necessarily getting there accurately, or maybe there was a couple of drops in there, I believe, as well. But it's also against the Raiders team that is getting lit up in the air. Top 10 in average fantasy points allowed, receiving yards, and touchdowns to wide receivers. Just like the matchup. Las Vegas, weird team, like just to me in general, to really place how good and how bad they are. Like this Ravens win for them is really throwing me off. And I guess they didn't get beat through the air too badly in that one either. I don't know. I think Amari Cooper could keep some of the production that he showed last week. And at the end of the day, he's a wide receiver one, the 10 and a half targets per game. But I think he'll get in there. Maybe not 2 touchdowns worth, and maybe into the end zone itself.
Yeah, I mean, Zay Flowers had a pretty good week against Vegas, especially in the first half, despite the loss. But Cooper is really tough. Like he's got 2 easy matchups coming up with Vegas and the Commanders in terms of like receiver work. But it's the fact that these targets are coming from Deshaun Watson. It just scares me. It scares me way too much that like he won't have this. This will probably be his best game of the year, I bet. Like I don't think he's going to surpass 27 and a half points because he had the 2 touchdowns, 7 catches, and 86 yards. But I don't know. It's good, 2 good matches coming up for him, so I can see that he can get up to this 20 point-ish mark, for sure. Definitely the 10 point mark. But if I'm like an Amari Cooper fantasy owner, after these next 2 weeks, especially if they're both good weeks, I'm trading him. Then plays Philly, Cincy, Baltimore, and the Chargers. Nothing crazy elite, but it's still going to get a lot tougher. And with Deshaun Watson playing behind center, I'd just trade him on a high after a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah, I will say going into last week, we've given a lot of flack to Deshaun Watson. Amari Cooper had 5 receptions and 4 drops, including a drop in the end zone against Dallas. He could, even with the balls that Deshaun Watson's throwing him, have been a much better fantasy receiver. So and it's Amari Cooper. He has hands. His hands are not this bad. So when Deshaun Watson can put the ball in a spot that he can catch it, I still expect him to go get it. He's still a number one receiver in my eyes. So I do like the start, especially against a weaker Raiders defense.
I guess that leaves Glover for your start.
Yeah,
1-5. Am I seeing that right? The Jawan Jennings. Oh no, you sat Pittman as well.
that's not Pitt.
So you're two and okay, let's hey, but you biggest hit of the year
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take
and
the
will
one check.
probably be the biggest hit of the year. So maybe the tides are turning here too.
Yeah, well, I'm going a bit riskier this week, to be totally honest with you. Maybe I'm not doing the smartest thing, but I'm going with Romo Dunze. I really like the breakout performance from him last week against Indianapolis, and now he's playing the Rams. Another poor pass defense. They're ranked 30th against receivers, a lot like fantasy points allowed to receivers. Keenan Allen coming back's a bit of a scare, maybe, but I don't think he'll be fully healthy. And to be honest, at this age, Keenan Allen doesn't scare me that much, especially if Rome and Caleb can get on the same page. Rome Odunze is a much better deep ball. He's going to be the deep threat in that offense, especially if Keenan Allen's back. Keenan Allen and DJ Moore can work the intermediate routes, work those short routes. Rome Odunze will be the guy to catch a deep ball on the sideline, like he did against the Colts, and then that leaves him open for explosive plays that can get him up to that 10 points, even if he doesn't have a ton of work, even if he doesn't see 10 targets like he did in the last week. So I do like Rome Odunze despite Keenan Allen coming back into the lineup.
Yeah, the Rams secondary is going to get picked on a lot,
Mhm.
I think, especially if the Bears O-line can hold up just a little bit more for Caleb Williams, I think Rome Odunze is going to be a big beneficiary of that.
And
Yeah.
the Rams pass rush hasn't been crazy either, despite they should be a lot better than they are, but they haven't really done anything too crazy.
Yeah, everything's gone up for Dunze since the start of the year. Snap percentage, targets, catches, yards per target, yards per catch, everything has gone up. So hopefully it keeps going. Yeah, against a terrible Rams secondary there. So sitting at the wide receiver position now, Frosty, back to you.
This my sit's not really it's not on the receiver, but I'm sitting Garrett Wilson against Denver. Pat Surtain is just putting people in straight jackets right now so far this season. He's absolutely locked up every receiver that he's been on so far this year, and I can't see why Garrett Wilson is going to be any different. I just don't think he's gonna be able to get open enough to be able to get the amount of he could get one. All he needs is one catch and he brings it for a touchdown. But I just don't think Pat Surtain's gonna let him get open enough during the game for him to get a viable amount of fantasy points.
Yeah, I know I shouldn't be doing this considering I'm so far behind. My sit was also Garrett Wilson. That's who I'm going with. And it's the same reason. Like it's just Pat Surtain. The Denver Broncos defense is ranked as the top defense in allowing receiver fantasy points. So they're the best defense, allowing the least points by receivers in fantasy football. And that's all Pat Surtain. That's just purely he is like Sauce Gardner. We talked about this when we did our top tens. He's an elite corner. He's debatable up there with Pat Surtain. But with the way that secondary is, Sauce doesn't follow the receivers around as much. He plays his side. DJ Reed can come in. Michael Carter can come in. With the Broncos defense, Surtain follows whoever the top receiver is. All game long, it's a one-on-one matchup, and he always seems to win. He's played some tough receiving competition this year. Has not mattered. I just don't like it. And Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers still aren't on the same page. They're still missing targets. They're still a little rough. Garrett Wilson had a touchdown against the Patriots that got him over the 10-point mark, but Gonzalez had a pretty good week against them besides that one play. So I really do like Garrett Wilson or do not like Garrett Wilson for this next week.
You like him as a star, you
I
like him
like him
as a
as a
sit.
sit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you guys are, I mean, you guys like each other's sits for running back and wide receiver. You guys are riding Rashad White and Garrett Wilson. Well, I'm also riding, no, I'm not. I'm sitting Jalen Waddle versus the Titans. One of these days, we're gonna get a three clean sweep though for a starter or sit, and I mean, that's like the ultimate, like that's like the backfield buzz, like lock it in,
Guaranteed.
right?
Yeah, the backfield buzz stamp.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much validity we have based on our records and everything, but. Uh, Jalen Waddle, which is one I do feel confident in. Titans are one of the best teams at defending wideouts, allowing the fourth fewest fantasy points, fifth fewest receiving yards, and they haven't even given up a touchdown to wide receivers quite yet. Do we even know who this quarterback is going to be? Like, who's going to be throwing him the ball, which is kind of important.
Really?
A little bit, a little.
Yeah, I think as of right now, I think it's said to be Tim Boyle or Tyler Huntley. I think that's where they're at, unless they like make a splash trade. But like, ew.
Now, I will say there is a wide range of outcomes because, like, I mean, you know this guy, like one play and it could ruin the whole sit. Uh, but I mean, his numbers are way down when Tua's not the quarterback, and 4 catches on 5 targets for 26 yards last week just isn't gonna cut it. Honestly, I thought about sitting Tyreek Hill. I really did. I downgraded it to Jalen Waddle. I have both these guys in fantasy leagues, so it's like not what I want to be hearing. But I thought about Tyreek Hill. I put her down a little bit.
Yeah, this is not what I want to be hearing because you sat my RB1 and my wide receiver two right now in
Oh
fantasy
no.
football. It's just not what I want to be hearing. I mean, maybe my RB2 with J.K. Dobbins, but yeah, like I traded for Jalen Waddle. It has been that the game I traded it for him. I made the trade on that Thursday night game. Tua goes down. He is now just dead weight. It's and it, you know it, I would expect a little bit better out of him. He is an elite receiver, but like man, this Dolphins offense in general just can't get going. Like it seems like it's not just the quarterback play, but Mike McDaniel is struggling to scheme for an offense without Tua. I think maybe we undervalued the Tua effect in that offense. Like obviously he's got a lot of help around him, but Mike McDaniel can't really run his scheme without a top 15 quarterback because it's too complicated. There's too much going on. There's too many moving pieces for a Skylar Thompson, a Tim Boyle, a Tyler Huntley to deal with. Unless McDaniel starts to dumb it down a little bit and start to take the easy stuff, get your receivers, get the ball in your playmaker's hand, and let them make work in space, these Dolphins players in general just aren't going to be viable.
Yeah. Because I had Jalen Waddle as my sit last week, and I also thought about doing Tyreek Hill this week, but I just don't have the balls to sit Tyreek Hill. And I can't double dip three separate players on my start sits. So I wasn't sitting Jalen Waddle again, but I do like the sit. I think their offense looks in shambles without Tua right now.
Interesting. Interesting how that looks without him. I'm trying to remember how where we landed on Tua. Uh when we had that whole big conversation.
Yeah, we had a big
I think I was
conversation.
higher on Tua.
I think I was a little lower, but again, he falls in that 12 to 16 range. That was sort of where we decided you can flip a lot of the guys in that range around into circles. But if for this Dolphins offense, you just need one of those guys. It doesn't need to be Tua. But if you had a Kirk Cousins, a Baker Mayfield, one of those guys in that range, I'm blanking on some of the names, but you get my point.
I would say Tua just the offense like he fits really well with
Yeah.
what McDaniel wants to do,
Mhm.
and I will say he's schemed pretty well in it. So maybe like I mean, for argument's sake, I wouldn't rather have Kirk or Baker just because of given how the offense is, and it's such a
Mhm.
major shift. Like we're seeing, like it's not like Tim Boyle or Huntley is going to be really, you know, like somebody like taking over anyways.
No.
But like it is just a hard scheme. I feel like a bit more to get into.
Yeah, and like I've seen Tyler Huntley play. If he's having a good game, if that's a big if, he's not getting receivers. Like, regardless of what you're like, if you're getting a good Tyler Huntley, he's still not working the ball to the receivers. He's hitting the tight end on the easy stuff. He's running the ball well. That's what he's doing. He's not going to be hitting Tyreek Hill on an 80-yard deep shot. It's just not happening.
Yeah, fortunately. Tight ends. That is what we're talking again. Let's let's get through these. Glover, who are you starting?
I'm starting Kyle Pitts. I'm falling into the trap. You see how excited I am to say that I'm starting Kyle Pitts. But I mean, he's got a good matchup. New Orleans just got torched by Dallas Goedert last week. And in general, they're not a good defense against tight ends in fantasy football. Kyle Pitts is getting more and more involved in the offense. His snap share has actually been going down, but his targets have been going up. I think it's also due to the fact that Kirk Cousins is playing better and better each week. As he gets more comfortable, Kyle Pitts will get more comfortable and they'll start to create that connection. I think this will be a great matchup to see that finally come to fruition because this Saints defense does not look good at defending the tight end position.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts has. We know Kyle Pitts has all the talent to be a difference maker and one of the best fantasy players at tight end. So now he has the quarterback, now he has the OC.
Yeah.
Now he's starting to show flashes of putting it together.
I wish Kyle Pitts was getting like what Drake London's getting right now. Like London, like Big Kirko Chains is saving Drake London right now, man.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's cool to see just for London in general. I feel like a lot of people liked him coming out,
Well,
and
he was the first receiver taken in that class. It was a really good class, and this is taking him this long.
but hey, I mean, to be fair, like he hasn't had too much to work with at quarterback. So, I mean, that's great. That's great. Especially with him, who it's like probably want to target him a bit deeper down the field.
Mhm.
Um, I Frosty, who are you starting?
So I sat Garrett Wilson. I'm starting Ty Conklin. I'm
Oh
going
yeah.
back to the well again. I started him, I think week one. Yeah, I
Yeah, it
started
didn't work
him
out.
started him week one. He got me a whole 1.6
Yeah.
points. That could have been tight end four that week though, for all I know. Tight ends were terrible week one. Um, I think he had a massive, I think he had 6 targets, 5 receptions last week. I think he's gonna be a big role. Alex Singleton's out now for the Broncos. They're middle linebackers, so I think the middle of the field is going to be open for Conklin to go to work there. I think with Garrett Wilson being shut down by Pat Surtain, I think Conklin could see a lot of work going his way.
As someone who had bet on Garrett Wilson's yards, watching Ty Conklin get every single ball thrown his way was extremely annoying. But he seems to have found a place in this offense, and Aaron Rodgers seems to like to target him. We'll see if it was just because that matchup was just so abysmal. But Denver's a good bet to mess up and let him get open, especially if Garrett Wilson's locked up, gonna have to look elsewhere. Ty Conklin's probably the next best thing.
My start might be a bit too chalk. I'm starting Jake Ferguson. He's only in tight end 13, which is like he's technically not a top 12 guy, but I know it's a bit chalky. If it's too chalky, I
This is
can
tough because
scramble to find another one, but
he is a tight end 13, but he also missed a game and is a tight
Yeah, I
end.
was gonna say he missed a game in his tight end 13.
it might be too chalky.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Jake Ferguson's a pretty lock start. I think he's a consensus top 10 tight end.
Okay. On the spot, somebody gotta make a case for. I guess like the only other one I was really considering was like I was considering Ty Conklin because I too Glover was a person who bet on Garrett Wilson and was wondering where Ty Conklin all of a sudden was doing this good. So uh I guess I'll just ride the Ty Conklin because he kind of was the backup. But I thought he might have been a little too chalk based off last week at this tight end position. But uh same reasons as you. Like the Pat Surtain thing is a real deal, and Singleton is a big loss. I mean, I've talked about Singleton. He used to play in the CFL. He's been great for them. He finished, I think I saw a TikTok. Don't know if it's accurate, but he tore the ACL in the first quarter, played the entire game on it, led the team in tackles. Good stuff. Good
He's man.
stuff.
He
Yeah,
didn't miss a snap. Played 49 more snaps on defense after he tore it.
it's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous.
This
Yeah,
guy's an absolute animal, man.
All right, on to the sits. I'm sitting Hunter Henry versus the 49ers. Now, he's tight end 8, so this should it be which is surprising, but that week 2 was crazy. Locked up last week in a matchup where you would think that it would be good against the Jets, especially that New England literally passed the whole game. But all those targets went to Demario Douglas and Jalen Polk. And he's playing the 49ers. San Fran has only allowed 39 receiving yards to the tight end position. That's it. Uh, One of the lowest in the NFL. I I'm sitting Hunter Henry.
yeah. I mean, with the way Fred Warner's been playing, he's been all over the field. So I highly doubt Hunter Henry does anything. I highly doubt Jacoby Brissett has time to throw a ball before Nick Bosa is just jumping at him. Like there's no like you can have no time with Nick Bosa, despite Javon Hargrave getting hurt. It's not going to matter. There's going to be a quick pass rush. Nothing's going to be open. The Patriots are going to get hammered.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
All right, so who are you guys sitting?
I'm sitting Travis Kelce. I'm sitting
oh,
Travis Kelce against the Chargers.
I thought
I'm gonna
mine
read
was
you.
big.
I'm gonna read you 2 stat lines so far this season. One of them is 8 catches on 12 targets for 69 yards. no touchdowns. The other one is 8 catches on 12 targets for 66 yards and no touchdowns. One of those is Travis Kelce. The other one is Jordan Akins, the tight end for Cleveland. He has essentially the exact same stat line. I'm now treating Travis Kelce as he has to be a bench until he shows that he is still Travis Kelce. He has to now prove it that he can go out and be at least a top 12 tight end week in, week out again.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Like he's somehow still a tight end 22, which is like it feels too high. But like Atlanta wasn't a good defense at stopping the tight end. Pacheco was out. They had to pass the ball. Should have been a game for Travis Kelce last week, and he was kind of invisible, as per he has been. Like 4 catches for 30 yards. He was averaging like that. That's not Travis Kelce numbers. Less than 10 yards a catch. That's just not him. Like I don't, and his snap share is also way down for some reason. He went from 91% in against Cincinnati to 77% against Atlanta. I don't know. The only thing is Derwin James is out with a suspension. Could open up the field, but with the way he's been playing, with the way the Chiefs have been scheming, that's gonna open up the field for Rashee Rice, not for Travis Kelce. Because I think it also hurts Kelce the way that Rashee Rice is Michael Thomas 2.0 with the slants, man. He is just running lots and lots and lots of slants. Middle of the field, that's where Kelce used to just operate and kind of been taken away from him.
Just go look at the numbers of Travis Kelce's regular season and the playoffs. Like, it's clear that fantasy wise, that like they're just trying to. This whole team's just trying to get to the postseason healthy. To be honest, like even I wonder if that's what you could attribute this Pat Mahomes like early, like kind of what's going on here. Like, uh, I think they realize like it's a long, and they're still somehow 3-0 with all of this, which is dark magic, voodoo, whatever you want to call it. Um, I just think they realize it's early. There's no need to force feed this or go like crazy, crazy hard. We need you guys, come February. And I mean, Frosty, you're right, until he starts being a regular season animal, which I don't even know. He wasn't a regular season animal last year. So what makes you think we'll do it this year with an improved core
Yeah.
around him?
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing. Like I didn't really understand. Like Kelce obviously was still regarded as an elite tight end, rightfully so in fantasy football heading into this year. But he was regarded as like a tight end one, tight end two. That seemed too high for me after the way last year went for him because we saw how he does in the regular season. Obviously, the playoffs definitely boosted his stock back up. But once Rashee Rice emerged from week 7 or when week 8 on, Kelce didn't score over 16 points in a single game, multiple sub 10-point games to end the season. He finished as a tight end 3, but as a 34-year-old who had a decline end of the year, who doesn't care about the regular season anymore, why was he drafted as a tight end 2? I didn't like it going in. I was avoiding him all the way through. And if you drafted Travis Kelce, you're in a bad spot.
Yeah. So from week 8, Logan, he was the tight end 10
Yeah.
last year until the end of the season.
Like
Like,
that's fine. That's not like unplayable. That's not like this, oh my God, I can't start Travis Kelce, but it's not second round, third round value.
no.
Well, and now he's down to tight end 20. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
the trend has continued. Glover, finish us off.
Yeah, I thought mine was gonna be a bigger one. I'm going Mark Andrews. I'm sitting Mark Andrews,
How
and
the
yeah,
tables have
How
turned, the
the turntables.
that that should tell you all you need to know is that I'm here sitting Mark Andrews. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't get it.
It's because he got in a car accident before the season. Like he's
Well,
just it's been a weird offseason for him, as it not?
yeah, he's definitely been a little banged up, and I'm sure that partly playing into it. But this offense used to run through the tight end, but Todd Monken has totally flipped that script. And with the run game emerging last week, and Zay Flowers still being a target machine, there's just and Isaiah Likely being there, Aguilar and Bateman have looked much better. I just don't see a world where Mark Andrews fits. He had a 33% snap share last week, 0 points in a target. I don't see it happening. And it's a good defense too. Buffalo is going to be good. I thought about Zay Flowers as my sit at receiver. I don't think it's gonna be a good week for any one of the Ravens because that defense looks really, really good. It's gonna be a tough matchup for sure. But Mark Andrews used to be just it in Baltimore. He was the obvious number one target. It's just a little It's a little uncertain, a little shaky. If you can get out of them, get out of them. But yeah, it's rough for Mark Andrews right now.
I mean, Harp like 33. You mentioned the 33 stat percentage last week. Uh, the Ravens were in heavy personnel packages, big time, and Harbaugh didn't clear any of it up. He
Never
said
does.
that the tight end position will continue to see rotation and snap counts will vary according to the team's game plan. So, I mean, you're looking at it, the snap percentage has gone down since week one,
Yeah.
dramatically, and yeah, Isaiah Likely is right there. So.
I also I wouldn't take like John Harbaugh's not going to tell you anything in a press conference like that. Like he did the same with the O line. Like, oh, we'll still see rotations. We'll see what happens in practice. That's what you're going to get. And also, like Charlie Kolar had a big catch, and Kolar is the blocking tight end. And if the run game is prevalent, Kolar will be on the field a lot. Andrews is a great blocking tight end too, so he'll typically be there. But Isaiah Likely is emerging as the top receiving option in the tight end room because of how versatile he is when he catches the ball.
I mean, at this point, he's like number five if you're counting Lamar running as an option too. You
Yeah,
got Lamar, Derek, and then Likely and Zay now.
yeah.
So just yeah. All right. Well, that does it for the start sits. We'll see how we do. We will see how we do. One thing that me and Frosty have not been good at is these best bets. I believe we are both 0 and 3, right? And now
Yep.
Glover is 2 and 1. So should we leave Glover for last, or should we push him front?
I,
Yeah, I'll let you guys go. I've gotten some grief for taking the Buffalo Bills pick last week, which hit by a landslide to cover the spread. So I'll let you two make your picks, and I'll take what's left.
Frosty, if you go first, no one can steal your pick.
I don't think anybody wants to steal my pick anymore, man. This is I don't know. Um, I'm not taking the biggest favorite in what I believe is the 49ers.
They're like the
Um,
minus 10. It's ridiculous.
10.5
yeah,
now.
Yeah. Oh my
yeah,
God.
like that is insane. Um, it's there's a, I think I'm gonna take I'll take the Commanders at +3 against the Cardinals.
Wow.
Okay.
We're buying into it.
I'm a believer in the Commanders. I think it's got to fall off eventually, but I don't love the Cardinals defense. I think this game is just going to be a shootout. I think they might just go score for score. And I like the way that Jaden Daniels looks, and I love the way that Scary Terry looks now with Jaden Daniels.
I mean, I can't argue it. Hey, we did the after Monday Night Football, we did is Washington sneaky good or Cincy sneaky bad, and I think we all tend to agree that Washington is sneaky good. Hopefully, it's not just in the moment, but I feel like we were all feeling these things to start the year. That definitely an improvement from what we've seen in Washington in the past.
Yeah.
For me, I thought about that one a little bit. I thought about a couple of other ones. I think I've landed on Minnesota +2.5 against the Packers. Nothing like just seeing firsthand get slapped up, like locked up. And with this Texas offense, I know when a team is really shutting these guys down, it's legit. It's like a stamp of approval to me because this Texas offense is lethal. And yeah, they boxed CJ Stroud and the Texans up. Frankly, kind of shocked they're underdogs, which is last time I said that didn't go so well. Uh, I think they'll have a plan for Malik Willis. They seem to always do. I mean, the amount of just craziness that goes on, and the amount they disguise, I think it's good enough. And I'm not buying the Sam Darnold quite yet. I'm more bought on the defense than I am on Sam
Hmm.
Darnold. But I mean, Aaron Jones' revenge game is always fun too. Uh, O lines look solid, so
Yeah.
I'm going with it. I'm not confident, but that we're going with it.
I like the Vikings +2.5 is what I was considering. There's a lot of underdogs. I'm a little confused as to why they're underdogs. Another one, Bills +2.5. I'm surprised it's not just a dead split between them and the Ravens. Even if not dead split, it should be Bills should be favored. They have been the better team this year for sure.
That is interesting.
The scary thing about some of these 2.5s is the fact that they're 2.5s. So losing by 2 is just kind of weird. I'm bouncing between two, but I'm gonna go with a 2.5. I'm gonna go with Rams plus 2.5 versus the Bears. I don't see why I, this burns us, but I don't see why they're the underdog. I mean, last time we thought this, they got blown out by 40 by the Cardinals. But
I believe it was Rams 2.5 too. This is, I think
yeah,
this is the
you
Yep.
same
should.
This
line.
is, I'm pretty sure this is the exact same thing.
Well,
I got like I got like PTSD as soon as you said Rams 2.5. I was like, oh yeah.
I don't know. Like the Bears, they've struggled. The defense is not all that.
You
I
don't
don't
like the
know.
defense?
The Rams just beat the Niners, and to me, there's nothing the Bears do that the Niners don't. I
I think
just
that's more of a Niners thing.
the Niners typically play well against the Rams. Like I I I don't know. Like it's just there's a lot of tough underdogs. Like I like Rams. The other one I'm considering or was considering was Seahawks plus 3.5 against the Lions. The main reason I'm considering that is because it's a 3.5 spread. And I like what Mike Reynolds has been able to do with the defense. Devon Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen look really good. He's locked down the Lions in the past. The Lions look shaky. I'm gonna lean Rams, but if Rams doesn't hit and Seahawks doesn't, I'm a little pissed off at myself.
I'm trying to look at some more interesting lines. Like how I mean, do we like Carolina plus 4.5
No. The
against
Bengals have
What?
to
Cincinnati?
win a game at some point. They have to win a game at some point.
Do they? Do they?
Like, if you're a Bengals fan, if you start the year 0-4 losing to the Panthers, Commanders, and Patriots, season's a wash, trade them all away.
No, you can't be a Super Bowl contender and then lose to the Commanders and to make start 0-3. No urgency, nothing from them.
They're the
Honestly, like
team to beat
their
in the
Super Bowl hopes
AFC.
should be their Super Bowl hopes should be done.
They're the team to beat, man. They're the team to beat. Listen to Jamar Chase.
I mean,
Yeah,
at this
oh,
point, the,
they're
the
done.
Steelers got just there's problems in their own division. Like that's a good division. The Steelers have a 3-game lead on them already. You assume Baltimore is going to be better than what they've shown. Maybe Cleveland steals a couple extra wins. I don't know. Like that's
And it's a tough
I,
wildcard race
I
for
think
them.
it's done. I think it's like
I think so too.
I don't even think they make the playoffs.
They're
I,
gonna have to beat some good teams now in order to make the playoffs.
they're in the exact spot the Ravens would have been. They lost to the Cowboys. 0-3 teams don't make the playoffs.
No, they don't.
1-2, 0-2, you can it happens very rarely. It happens like once a season, but you gotta beg it to 0 to 1-2. And when the games you're losing are to these teams that should be your wins. As you said, they're now gonna have to go down and beat some good teams. They've got 2 games against the Ravens, 2 games against the Browns, and 2 games against the Steelers still to go.
Yeah. They also
There's
got
no
Philly
way.
and Dallas.
There's no way you win all 8 of those. That's basically what you would have to do. And you have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat, like the Panthers.
I mean, is it a lock that they beat like the Raiders or Chargers at this point?
The Raiders beat the
No.
Ravens. The Chargers beat the Raiders. Absolutely, they both should beat them.
So
The circle of parity, man.
I will say, bit of a narrative guy, and if the Red Rifle comes in and makes Cincy go
Oh,
0-4, you can't write it better for Bryce Young.
no.
Like this, the whole it would intertwine the stories perfectly. And honestly, I'm rooting for it.
You know
Yeah.
I'd love that. 2-2 Panthers and the Bengals at 0-4. At that point, you can kiss the playoffs goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you kiss them goodbye right now. I don't think there's a like Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Texans. I mean, I trust the Jets more. The Steelers, like I trust the Chargers more. I do I take the Browns? Do you take the Dolphins?
That's the range they're in,
Yeah,
as
they're
far
in
as
that
I'm concerned.
that 7 to 10 range in the AFC, and every one of the teams they're in a range with has at least a win so far.
I mean, they're one of 3 winless teams in the AFC right now. The other two being the Titans and Jags. The Jags are their own mess.
Yeah,
And I mean, the Titans are their own mess too, but at least it was a bit more expected than these Bengals and Jaguars.
like the Jags at least like they've been losing to decent teams despite it in embarrassing fashion. And the Titans just aren't good. We knew that, but like losing to these guys, oh
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that do we all give our best bets, right?
yeah.
Am I locked into mine? Do I still have a chance to change mine?
Sure. The episode we haven't stopped. We can
I'm
the graphics
I'm
guy, me, is gonna have to change it
I'm put
now.
yeah, I'm making you put overtime in. I'm switching. I'm taking the Vikings Packers under 43 and a half.
Going switching, just flipping the
Just
switch
everything.
entirely.
I haven't
Wow.
hit a spread. I haven't hit a spread. I gotta stop. I gotta stop. The train's gotta. I gotta get off at a different station at some point.
Well, last time we both got off at the same stop, which was Rams plus 2.5. It failed miserably. So now I feel like I gotta move. I feel like I gotta move
No,
off the
no, no,
game.
that's that's why I went over under. That's okay. It's okay. I went there's realistically, I think the Vikings defense is gonna stymie the Packers offense.
Mhm.
I do think that. And the Packers defense looks unreal so far. They have a +7 turnover ratio already through 3 games. I mean, I could see this game ending like 7-6. I
The other interesting, like they'll lock down the defense, and you could say like, well, Jordan Love might play. I still think they'll lock down Jordan Love, especially Jordan Love on whatever injury he's in. He's not healthy.
no.
I wouldn't, again, Malik Willis is playing good football. Don't sit him. But the
Yeah,
other
he's
matchup that's interesting is it's tough to get a read on how they match up because every game one of them dominates the other, but Jair Alexander and Justin Jefferson. They'll be button heads all game, and one of them either Jair locks him down or Jefferson goes for 8 catches at 150 yards. That's how this matchup will go. You're hoping it's Jair locks him down.
yeah, yeah, I am.
So I mean, no, Lyles, you want the Vikings to win. So you're hoping the other way around.
I might just switch it at this point.
Oh God.
Uh, uh
You just think I'm just such a negative. Whatever game I pick, you cannot pick.
no, it definitely isn't. I was debating as we were talking, I was just thinking about this other one. I mean, the Bills really aren't favored against Baltimore.
Yeah,
Like
I think that's crazy. And I'm a Ravens
Baltimore's
fan.
Baltimore's allowing the most passing yards per game, Glover. Most passing yards per, they're one of the worst.
Don't scare me, man. I'm already scared of this game. Like, you don't need to give me more nightmare fuel,
Here's what's
man.
adding because you said there was this elite trio of
Okay,
cornerbacks
you're reading
and
this
they're
all
hmm
wrong. I
hmm
said if they can keep it up, which at the point in that Cowboys game, they had been locking CeeDee Lamb down, strapped up. And then I make that tweet that if they keep it up, it's an elite trio, and then they decide to stop playing football.
If they keep it up, they've allowed 108 more passing yards than the second
Well,
most
the big thing
in the
was getting
league.
Nate Wiggins back. He didn't play in week two, and that was a big loss. Nate Wiggins looks so good. But yeah, like I think if they can get on track, Marlowe looks a lot better. Stevens looks good. I'm not overly worried about these passing yards. It's a lot of I think it's on the coaching
You're
more than
saying they look good, but they're
I
allowing
just
a lot of yards.
I don't know how they can look. I don't know how they can look good when you're giving up almost 300 pass yards a
to
game
be
right
I
now.
mean,
fair.
from what I've seen, the linebackers look like they can't guard.
The
I'm gonna be
linebackers are a
honest.
bigger question mark right now, but
Yeah,
also to be fair, they played Devontae Adams, Rashee Rice, and CeeDee
CD
Lamb.
Lamb.
For
He,
sure.
he cut a little slack there.
And it's a new DC, I think is
New
part of
DC,
it.
Mike McDonald, who is now an amazing defensive coordinator, had a really rough go his first couple weeks with the Ravens. The Dolphins torched that team in 2022. So I'm giving Zach Orr the benefit of the doubt. He's young and they'll get better as the year goes on, but they're still finding their groove as a team entirely. And
Well,
Harbaugh's
they're
kind of an
but
idiot.
they're about to go up against one of the best teams of
Yeah.
football who've just been killing opponents
Yeah,
so far
like,
this year, and they're favored against them.
I'm not at all saying this
With
to
this Bills
defend the
front
line.
seven, which like this
Yeah,
Bills
like
D line is legit, and they'll give Derrick Henry and Lamar troubles for sure.
I do not agree with the line. Like, I'm not here to say like the Ravens should be favored. The Bills should 100% be the favor right now. They just beat the brakes off the Jaguars and are 3-0. They should absolutely be the favorite, but they aren't. I don't know why. They were one
Well,
of my
it's
Bills plus 2.5 was a pick I was considering. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to cheer for the Ravens.
I'll put it to the Bills just to have some fun when we watch the game and we're rooting against each other. But like, I don't know. I'm trying to like, why would Vegas do that? That's why I'm getting in the mindset of why they would do that. Why can you think like Frosty? What's the reason? What's the thing that they can exploit? Like, I was talking to Glover before the Raiders and Ravens game. where the Ravens are weak, the Raiders are so strong, and it actually messed up the whole game. And then
Yeah,
similarly, like Devontae maybe was picking on inside against the linebackers, and just like, maybe a weaker back seven of Ravens football, which in years is still solid, obviously, but Glover is just weaker than it has been in general, especially when Wiggins was out. Um, why? What's your reason for Baltimore, Frosty? Like, why would they do this?
it, a home field is the one thing that I can see.
Yes.
Buffalo coming off a short week is another thing that I could see. Um, but I really don't know.
Yeah.
I to be completely honest, other than the fact that Derrick Henry in Tennessee made some of the worst offensive lines in football look above average.
He just did that
So
last week.
exactly. So the only difference is Dallas has essentially no run stoppers on defense. Like none. Osa is a good pass rusher, not a good run stopper. Mozzie Smith doesn't know what sport he's playing. Micah Parsons is a elite pass rusher. Same with DeMarcus Lawrence. Neither one of them are great run block or run stoppers, though. The Bills, on the other hand, they they could eat that alive. But it's Derrick Henry. I it's it's tough to really try and justify giving the Ravens that. The only thing that I can see is home field advantage and Buffalo coming off a short week.
It's got to be home field. Also, if you guys are both changing, I'm gonna change. I'm going Seahawks plus 3.5 over the Lions. I'm not gonna play Mike McDonald.
What the
If
heck?
you guys are
Okay.
changing, I'm changing. The moment I said Ram, like, you know what, I want Seahawks. Just the extra point cushion gives me more security. I'm taking Seahawks. Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon are locking it down. Strapped up. Mike Donald's elite. I wish he was a Baltimore Ravens coach.
I need more switching. I guess now we've
So
talked about a
am I
bunch of
like
games.
locked in? Am I like locked?
I hope you're
Okay,
joking.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm
You have to put
done.
a
I'm done.
disclaimer underneath these.
Is there another thing like you're looking at? I mean,
No,
hey,
no, no,
we got
no.
we got a little bit of time here. Why not?
Nah, no, 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 we're good. We're good. I'm sticking with my pick. I'm sticking with it.
I mean,
Well,
okay, you could with all the poops are locked in, but is there anything else you guys were maybe looking at? Like, I mean, I thought about going back to the Houston bandwagon because, oh, buddy, we're gonna lay. I hope we should be laying a schmacking on these Jacksonville Jaguars, but like the Texans have already burned me twice. I bet on them twice now in our best bets. I think I gotta stay away from the boys, just
I
betting wise.
I will say it would be a little funny if we spent all week talking down to the Jaguars. They came into Houston and beat the brakes off you.
Oh, wouldn't that just be hilarious?
It'd be really fun. I think it'd be kind of funny.
To be honest, I mean, do you know who one of Carolina's wins were against last year? It was the Houston Texans. So they tend
I
to
didn't
just
know
they tend to lose. Like, I mean, they also the Falcons and Panthers last year,
that.
both of them. So I don't know. But division, they've always been good against Jacksonville. But and I just the Vikings defense compared to this Jaguars defense is night and day. And Trevor Lawrence, where are you? I believe if you look at the numbers, Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones, I believe there was a graphic going around.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones in a wig. That's all he is right now.
I'm too low on Daniel Jones to put Trevor Lawrence down there, man. I think Daniel Jones is the worst quarterback in football. I can't be putting Trevor
They
Lawrence down.
haven't won a game in 10 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, like Trevor Lawrence is way down. He's not been good, but yeah, I still would take him over Daniel Jones.
Like, how much of it? I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but how much is it the quarterback's fault that this team has been underachieving over the years?
More than I think people have given it thought recently. Outside of I think it was the end of 2022 when they went on a run and then they
Yeah.
had that insane comeback against the Chargers in the playoffs. Outside of that, like 8 game stretch that Trevor Lawrence had where he actually looked like he was living up to the hype, he's been a disappointment so far of a draft pick. He's been a bust.
Yeah.
I mean, in his generational like comparisons and stuff like that, yeah.
When you're comparing him to Peyton Manning, you know,
But I mean,
When
honestly,
you're
with
comparing him to a lot of guys, he's been a below average quarterback.
I mean, I guess that's fair to be honest, which out of number one guy is probably a bust. He's like startable.
Yeah.
So it's
he's
like how
But
much I
he's
guess
I
only
relative
got
think
to
$55 million
expectation.
dollars. That's the problem.
I
That's
think so far in his career, he's lost Jacksonville just as many games, if not more, than he's won them.
Man, that pick on Monday night. was
Oh my God.
I saw it again. And it was just like, man, you missed Brian Thomas Jr., who got like he got up so high, man. Like he jumped up so high and still couldn't catch it. And DeMar Hamlin, like it was just like one of the worst throws I've seen, especially from Lawrence, who like that's your thing, like big tall guy. Let's hit an athletic receiver who's wide open in the middle of the field when you got a clean pocket. Come on.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just part of the defense can't. I mean, okay, it isn't all his fault though, right? Like there were some drops.
Yeah.
Defense
But
looks like, oh man, it looks bad.
terrible.
Like some standouts who like Tyson Campbell. I think is Tyson Campbell out still? I he missed a game or two regardless. I don't know if he was out last week, but like Devin Lloyd, I thought got picked on. I mean, now Olakun's hurt, so
That's brutal.
man, Joshua Hines Allen hasn't like stood
The,
out.
the Bills' O-line just dominated that whole game.
Really good O line though.
Yeah. It is a good O-line. Probably I would say a guaranteed top 10 O-line, probably bordering on a top 5 O-line, but getting eaten alive like that was just like, man, they couldn't get anything.
Especially with how much they've invested into that pass rush with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen, they shouldn't get eaten alive like that. They got Eric Armstead this offseason too. That should not be like you should not be scared of that matchup. That should be something you eat them up. Like that should
Talk
be
You should be
a battle.
confident.
talk about another first overall pick bust from Jacksonville, man.
Yep,
They messed up,
big time.
I think Trayvon Walker's still a good player, but Aiden Hutchinson is just so much better.
but it's like everybody knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone did know. It's the same. I don't understand it. Every draft season we go into it, the pro day combine athlete skyrockets up and is a bust. Shocker. Take the guy with the college tape. We'll talk about that more when we get into draft season, but that's my take on drafts.
Yes, we will have some draft coverage coming up. Honestly, we could probably do a mock draft at some point or something like that. I think that'd be fun, wouldn't
Yeah.
you say? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but thanks for watching. Cody Wiles, Andrew Foster, Logan Glover, and as always, keep it buzzing.